For me, it's business, my son, health. I ranked it in order. People might say, your business is above your son. Like, people don't do the best for their kids. They do the best they can afford. Money won't make you happy. They say shit like that. It's not money's job to make you happy. Money's job is to be.
He's faced loss, carried his family, and built himself from the ground up. Now he's King Keto, leading in fitness, mindset, and self-mastery. Today's guest on the Frankie Lee Podcast is Brandon Carter. Talk me through the early days and you breaking onto the scene.
I was in a rough place. My father had just committed suicide. So, record unemployment, and I couldn't get like a good job or anything. So after a lot of trial and error, things started to work out. I started to get some build notoriety on YouTube. And from that, though, I was getting clients for online training. And then, they don't know what it's like to wake up and not know how you're gonna eat that day. They don't know that, and thank God they don't. The money is the only quadrant that will fucking take everything down if you let it. Money's the only quadrant that if you improve it, you can improve all the other quadrants. And if it goes down, it can ruin all the other quadrants.
Give me your 3, 4, 5 step process to getting your money right in your mind.
You can't make money, people have to give it to you. And they only give it to you in exchange for a product or service. So you have to figure out a way to increase.
And we are back, and today, guys, I'm very excited because this man, I've seen this man on YouTube for years and years and years. Brandon Carter, welcome to the show.
What's going on, man?
Brother,
thanks for having me, bro.
We're finally here. You finally got to the studio.
Yeah. I didn't know he was really unprofessional and didn't tell me what unit we were in. So I'm in this building. I just start fucking kicking in doors, looking for podcast studios, interrupting motherfuckers.
So he's interrupted like 6 podcasts on the way.
I've been on about 7 podcasts today on accident. We'll see if they edit me out. They won't if they're smart.
Brother, you've had a phenomenal journey. Obviously, I've been seeing you on YouTube for years and years and years. You were the OGs in the fitness day. Like,
yeah, thanks.
Talk me through the early days and you breaking onto the scene.
Yeah, man. So I was in a rough place right before I started YouTube. My father had just committed suicide, right? And I was and it was during the recession, the global recession of 2008. So, record unemployment, and I couldn't get like a good job or anything. So I just, I had been a personal trainer for a decade at that point, right? And I was training people in the morning. I was working security after that, right? From like 10 to 6. And then after that, I would work for a moving company, right? And then on the weekends, I trained people in the morning. This was me waking up at like 4:30 every day, right? Training people. Then I managed a barbecue restaurant in Queens. So I was working like 12, 14-hour days, 7 days a week. And I did that for like 2 years before I started YouTube, right? And I remember I was one of these moving jobs and I read this book called The 4-Hour Work Week. And I was like, yo, man, what if I started training people online? And that was like a real novel idea back in like 2008, And then in Tim Ferriss, his book 4-Hour Work, he recommended Google ads, and I had like disposable income for that, right? Because remember, my father had just killed himself, so I'm giving all the money I could to my mom and my sister and my grandma, like helping everybody get back on their feet, helping mom with like the clean up the mess he made, it was like a lot of shit. I had to take care of the family, right? And so instead of that, I had read another book called Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk, and I was like, what if I combine these strategies, right? And I focus on YouTube. So I bought like a $50 camera off eBay. It was called a flip cam. They don't even make this shit no more, right? But it was an HD camera that fit in your pocket because the iPhone had like just came out and it didn't have HD and shit, right? So and then I just started YouTube. Oh, then I had to build. I needed a computer. I needed a computer to edit videos. Right, so I didn't have a good enough computer, so I had to build one, right? Because it was cheaper back then. It was cheaper to build a desktop than to buy one. I was like, all right, so I had to build a desktop. I stole a copy of Sony Vegas off the internet. I bought it since then, Sony. So like,
no suing the podcast.
Hey man, nah, yeah, I wouldn't bought it later, and and I just learned I had to teach myself how to edit videos. I had to teach myself how to make, and that's how I started my business. Started making videos, started building a fan base, and then I had to learn how to make website. I had to learn I had to learn HTML. We didn't have ClickFunnels and shit back then. You know,
Yeah.
ClickFunnels, lead pages, fucking WAP, fucking school. No, none of that shit existed. So I had to straight up learn how to code to build the website, right? So I had to do everything from scratch. It was very difficult back then. But you know, after a lot of trial and error, things started to work out. You know, things started to work out, and where I started to get build notoriety on YouTube, and I started getting out. From that though, I was getting clients for online training, you know, and then fast forward a few years, man, you know, a few years, I built that into like a 7-figure business, you know.
The thing I love about you, Brandon, is the fact of it's not just the hustle and the applied knowledge. You'll read something and then apply it. You'll read something and apply it.
Yeah.
That I respect massively of you. But the thing I love most about you is the way that you reframe things that other people would see as, you know, things that would hold them back for the rest of their life. Like you took your dad committing suicide, and you used it as fuel. And what I want you to distill is, how did you reframe your mind from something that was so painful, so raw, so like affected your family so much? How did you reframe that in a way where you can talk about it like that and make it empowering and inspiring?
First of all, thank you. But you know what happened was, so I grew up on the Southside of Chicago. We grew up like really poor. Southside Chicago, its reputation precedes itself. And, you know, one of my very first memories is my mom, you know, she used to wake me up at like 5 and walk me to preschool, you know, and then she'd get on the bus and go to work, right? And one of my very first memories is us getting robbed at gunpoint when I was like 5 years old. Yeah, we were walking in Chicago snow, and she, you know, the guy came over with a big fucking hoodie, and, you know, and he put the gun in my mom's face and give me the purse, bitch, and right, and she kind of froze up. Then he put the gun in my face, and then then he ran off, and it was like, fuck, you know, I remember that. I remember that. Like, that's how we grew up, right? And we went from that. Okay, no, mind you, during that whole time, my father was working on building his business, man. He was working. He lived with us, but I ain't see him a lot because he was just so busy, you know, working, you know, so busy building the business. And my parents were married, they were together and everything. But he didn't start to succeed until I was about to graduate from high school. I got sent away to military school because I got in a lot of trouble, right? Nothing crazy, just like skipping. I got in a lot of trouble, like skipping school, you know, fights, shootouts, you know, normal shit, normal kid shit. And then I get sent away to military school, like around my sophomore, junior year, his business started to take off. He started to make money. And by the time I graduated from high school, he was making $3 million a year, right? Adjusted for inflation, this was in 2000, so adjusted for inflation, that's $8 million. That would be $8 million in today's money.
Wow.
Right? So I saw him. There's a lot of lessons there, right? The first lesson was, fuck, if you persist for long enough, you can make it.
Yeah.
Right? Because my dad, he didn't have no high school diploma. He was an orphan. He didn't even know his parents. He was like a fucking street dude, gangbanger, and then he had an idea, you know? And it took him fucking 16, 17 years for it to work. How many people would have quit after year one? How many people you know quit after year one, year two, right?
It's similar when you do podcasting. I mean, I've been doing it now for over 5 years.
Yeah.
I've been all around the world doing it. There's been many hard times along this journey that I've wanted to quit. You know, but you just when you believe in what you're doing, the same way as your dad did, you have to just keep going, even though you can't perhaps see the way. Even if you can just see a crack through the door and there's an opening, you have to pursue it. I think that's what your dad did.
Yeah, and that was the first real lesson I learned, right? Because that was the first lesson. The second lesson was once you make the money, you got to learn how to keep it, right? And so my dad, you know, even though he got rich when I was away in military school, then I went to college after that. By the time I graduated from college, he had lost all the money, and then he killed himself, right? So I didn't experience any of the wealth. I didn't experience any of it. I knew it happened, right? I knew it happened. And to answer your initial question, it's my parents always told me you could do whatever you want, man, if you work hard enough. You could do whatever you want if you work hard enough. But if, you know, people say that shit to their kids all the time. But if this motherfucker is like a fucking janitor or bus driver or some shit, right? The kid's gonna look at him and be like, yeah, all right, motherfucker, man. And, you know, all right, bro, right? But my dad really did it. You get what I'm saying? Like, he really did it. He came from nothing. Southside, in a worse situation than me. I had both my parents, right? He didn't even know his parents. And he did it. So when hearing that all my life and then watching him do it, I just believed in myself. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Like a lot of people have self-limiting beliefs. I ain't have none of that. I never had none of that.
So subconsciously, he was teaching you lessons.
Yeah. So no, and even in real life, like, okay, so some of the lessons he told me, I remember. Like, he said, he would say shit like, yo, every dollar you get, man, save half of it. I was like, yo, is that what you did? He said, nah. Nah. I'm telling you so you don't make the same mistake. And then when that guy kills himself, it's like, oh, yeah, maybe I should do that shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, maybe I don't want to make that same mistake, you know? Because this motherfucker was legitimately rich. He was a millionaire, you know, and managed to fuck it up, right? So, you know, and I don't like blame him for that. He ain't had no education. Yeah. Like, he had a GED. He was like a real Chicago street dude who figured out how to make some money legally, you know, and he just didn't have the same kind of resources to make shit happen.
He was just essentially trying to do the best that he could.
He was doing the best he could.
With the information that he had.
He was doing the best he could, yeah.
When I've spoken to people that have come and got over situations like that, where they may have lost a parent through suicide in their life, I've often found that the people I've talked to, before they can get over it and transcend, which is what you've done, and have their own success, they're blocked by blaming that parent. They put some blame on him. How did you get over that?
I never had that, you know.
Like, how did you forgive?
I wasn't holding it against him, man. Like, how do I put it? You know, people are human. You know what I'm saying? Like, people are human. Mm-hmm. People make mistakes. We all got flaws. You know what Jesus say? You know, he was without sin, throw the first stone, right? Yeah. You know, I did some real foul shit in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you know, I just, it didn't work out as bad as it did for him, right? And it's just, also, I have bipolar too. I was diagnosed with that, right? From what I understand, it's hereditary. So I'm sure he was dealing with some mental shit that, you know, went undiagnosed. I mean, clearly, right? Mm. And then you got to remember where he came from, man. Like, Southside Chicago is a really fucking fucked up place. You know, I grew up there, and he lived his whole life there. And I mean, let me tell you, man. Like, I was always grateful for him. I didn't have that blame. I think it's perspective, right? Because a lot of people who say shit like that, they come from like nice places, right? Mm. I was one of my only friends with a dad. You get what I'm saying? Like, I was one of, you know, the black community, right? Like, I'm Southside Chicago. I'm one of my only friends with a dad. So like, you
were grateful for just having.
I was grateful. Dad. Yo, man, he was my best friend. I mean, it hurt. I ain't gonna pretend it didn't hurt, because he was like my best friend, you know. But, you know, I learned so much from him, and I had amazing parents. You know, it's just I blame myself more than him. Cause check this out. I don't know what the number is, but there is an amount of money that if I had it, I could have helped him with what he was going through. You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
Right? And I vowed to myself that I would never be in a position where I can't help out someone I love, or just bail him out of a situation, right? And that served me well. You know, one of my cousins who I grew up with, he was one of my best friends. He died in a car accident 2 years ago, and he had like 2 kids. He has 3 kids, matter of fact, and 2 of them live here in Miami. And, you know, like, I do my best to be like a father figure for them, right? Like, you know, their mom was like, yo, I can't afford to keep her in this private school, and I was like, nah, no, keep her in the school. I'm gonna pay for it, right? The funeral, 20 G's, just out of the blue. Boom, I got it. Nobody worry about it, you know, because I need to be there for everybody. Mm. You know, that's how I felt. Like, I'm never gonna be in that position again, where the people I care about can depend on me, right? So that's something I took from it.
One of the things that, and one of the, like I'm saying, one of the things that I respect most about you is the wisdom you take from things that many would call adversities, but you just take so much wisdom from it and apply it in your life going forward. So when you talk about, you read the 4 Hour Work Week, you read Crush It by Gary Vee, and what did you do? You applied the knowledge. You took your dad's suicide, something that's a travesty by all accounts, and you were like, okay, what knowledge did my dad tell me before his passing? What's he telling me within his passing? And I'm going to apply that going forward. It's like, the one thing I want everyone to pick up that listens to this conversation is the fact of like, you are taking knowledge that you see in your environment and you're constantly applying it and iterating it in your life so that you move forward in every essence. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And you do it, and it's your key skill. It's your key skill. You've done it. Like one of the things, we went out to dinner the other night, and I noticed about you. You talk about weighing your food. You talk about eating a certain way, and most people that talk about it online talk about it, but they don't do it, right?
That's a fact.
But I see you turn up at the restaurant, you pull out your scales, you weighed the steak, you weighed the spinach, you weighed the broccoli. You wouldn't touch a carbohydrate.
Nah.
Like, do you know what I'm saying?
People think that's fake. They think that they think it's like that,
No,
but you see
we ate at a time that I liked, which is a time that you stipulated. Otherwise, you weren't coming to the meal. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you're very diligent on doing what you said you'd do and operating. Once you have the knowledge, you can no longer operate in the essence of darkness where you say, "Oh, I have the knowledge, but I'm not going to apply it in my life." And that is ultimately the thing I respect most about you.
Oh, well, thank you, man. Yeah, thank you. Most people are trying to see how much they can get away with, right? So people will see me with the scale. They think it's crazy, and it's over the top. Yeah, for bringing the scale with me to everywhere I go. It's like it's in my bag right now, right? Every time I eat, weighing my food, put it in my fitness pal, and they think it's over the top, and it probably is, right? I get it. It's definitely abnormal and unusual. However, I'm not trying to see how much I can get away with. I'm trying to see how much I can push myself. You get what I'm saying?
That is so powerful.
Yeah. I'm trying to see how much I can push myself. And it is really, how much of your potential do you want to bring to the surface, right? If you say 100%, what's that going to mean?
What's the sacrifice?
What's that going to mean? What kind of effort would it take to bring 100% of your potential to the surface, right? And that's what I'm striving for.
Do you think that your mind and your business has followed your body in terms of by nailing your nutrition right and getting your body right? Do you think that's helped you align your mindset, your sleep, your business? Has it really? Have you translated it across the categories?
Well, in my business, right? Yes, because in my first I was a trainer, online trainer, right? Boom. Then I had. I was working in the fitness industry. So yeah, there's a correlation with your success and how fit you are. And even now I teach, what I do, my business now is I teach trainers how to grow their online fitness business, but I got to walk the walk, right? I can't show up fat. Yeah. Even in age ain't an excuse, right? I'm 42. I still can't show up looking like with a dad bod and shit. I still got to walk the walk, right? So in that respect, it does. But it doesn't have to in general. Like, the truth is, if we're being honest, because I hear people say a lot of that online, some of the guys who are in the best shape, guys and girls who are in the best shape, are the brokest. And some of the guys who are out of shape, some of the richest guys I know aren't in the best shape. In fact, who's the hardest person to train? Is a guy who's married and rich, because he doesn't have the same incentive, right? He's not doing it for girls because he's married, right? And he's already rich, so like now he's got to find some other reason to motivate himself. He's the hardest guy to change, right? But a broke dude, he can like lean on that, he can find solace in that, or at least that's something he can hang his hat on. I remember when I was broke, it was like, yo, man, at least I'm in shape. You know, shit can be worse, but at least at least I got my health and I'm in shape. You know what I'm saying? And it was more motivating. At least, or I need to go to the gym and, you know, I'm stressed out, money, all this shit. I can go to the gym, calm my mind. You know, it's more difficult when everything else in your life is great. You know, one of my best friends, his name is Jeremy.
Moneybags guy.
Oh, Moneyberg's lost a lot of weight, bro. I don't know if you've seen him recently. My boy Moneyberg, he was super fat during the pandemic. However, he lost so much weight, bro. He lost so much weight. He's been training MMA. He about to get his motherfucking black belt in jiu-jitsu. Or for real, he's been training with like the top guys. Like I went to his crib and Hoist Gracie was in that motherfucker, right?
Yeah.
In his crib, training him. Like because he's rich.
That's
right?
what you can do when you got money.
When you got money, right? So he got really into MMA and he lost a bunch of weight. My boy Jeremy, but he made this most money when he was the fattest. And my boy Jeremy made a fucking ton of money the last few years, like so much money. And he got overweight, you know. Now, but to his credit, he lost 30 pounds over the last 2 months. You know what I'm saying? So he's back on. Now that he's rich, he's back on his grind. You know.
So there has to be a compromise then, doesn't there? The truth is, like, people talk about balanced in all areas, but the people that are balanced in all areas are never going to achieve extraordinary results in one area.
Balance is the battle cry of the mediocre. You know what I'm saying? Like you extreme results come from extreme actions. It can't happen no other way. It's cause and effect, right? If you want an extreme result, you got to take extreme. You got to put extreme effort. Now, I'm not saying I don't want to say that you can't be in shape and get rich, right? People have done it, right? People have done it. I did it, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm off the top of my head. My boy Hermosi did it. You know, Alex Becker. He didn't get like he's not like super jacked, but he's definitely super lean. Yeah. And you know, I've seen people do it, right? But that's the legit minority. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So statistically, even in the fitness industry, it'd be cool if I can say with integrity, yo, man, getting in shape will help you in all areas of your life. But it probably, statistically, I just haven't seen that. You know, like I know about fucking 5 guys who got ripped and rich simultaneously.
It's amazing because not many people in the fitness game admit that.
I wouldn't, because it would make me more money if I fucking sold you on you need to get ripped, but to get rich, you know what I'm saying? But it's not true.
So what's more important? Like if you had to pick,
I would say. Okay, who are we talking about?
I'm talking about you.
You talking about me? What's more important?
Yeah, what's more important to you?
Well, yeah, for me, there's a legit correlation. I'm gonna say money, but I know I have to get ripped to get rich.
Right.
I have to stay ripped to get rich. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I have to. You know, in my vertical, right? If I did something else, or even it would help you too, right? Like you like if you were fat, it would be difficult. Right? How many fucking famous podcasters are fat? There's not a whole lot of them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm thinking, like, most of them are radio personalities. You know what I'm saying? When it was just radio. Rush Limbaugh, he was on the radio. You know what I'm saying?
Probably
like,
one of the wealthiest guys that I know with a microphone in this country, legitimately, like, fuck you money, is Dave Ramsey. Yeah. That guy, you know, he's an overweight guy by all accounts.
He's overweight.
But he's phenomenal at what he does.
And you gotta be real good.
So
people care about looks. It's like a primal thing. You know, one thing I would tell you is that anybody who gets in shape, especially if they weren't in shape, what they know is people do treat them differently.
Yeah,
I think it's a real primal thing. You know, like who do you want to follow? The fucking fat ass or the guy who looks like a fucking warrior? You know what I'm saying? It's like the primal. People treat you a lot differently, and it does help open doors in certain aspects.
You see, I would say I'm about 85% in shape. But to close that 15% between where I am and where you are, in terms of the shape, in terms of the vascularity, in terms of the way the body sits, I'm like, I don't know if I can do that and do podcasting and run a business and do everything else and enjoy my life and be able to date because I haven't got a woman in my life yet. So it's like, well, I need to be able to... Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, what you're describing is balance.
Yeah.
Right? But you won't excel in anything if you're balanced.
Yeah. So I have to pick my battles sometimes. You know what I mean? And it's like if I want to travel the world, podcasting with people like yourself and then go podcast in LA, you're gonna have to let your nutrition go out a little bit and your macros go out. In some cases,
maybe you don't have to, right? So okay, so to put
it in perspective for me,
I could be in better shape than I am now, right? You know, but I do minimum effective doses for a long period of time.
Right. Okay.
Right. So like if you don't mind it taking a really long time, then you can just be consistent for a long period of time. Right. So I hit my macros every day. Right. But that's not that difficult. Right? It's just putting numbers in a phone. People act like it's calculus and shit. It's just putting numbers in a phone, man. It's like, yo, man, you sound like a bitch, right? It's not even hard. You know what's hard? I seen a motherfucker cleaning my condo. My penthouse, motherfucker hanging from the roof, cleaning my window this morning like a Latino Spider-Man, hanging. That's hard. This motherfucker at the top floor hanging. I'm like, yo, my hat's off to this motherfucker. He ain't risking his goddamn life to feed his family, right? That's hard. Not putting numbers in a phone, right? Yeah. So it's like not fucking hitting some numbers in a. So, but it's like making time to go to the gym, right? I could work out more. I could do more cardio. I find ways around it. But, you know, if I really wanted to, you know, I couldn't, the reason my physique may be above average is because I've been doing it I've been doing the basics for a long period of time. Hitting my macros, working out an hour a day. For me to be like Mr. Olympia or some shit, or compete in a bodybuilding competition, like that's the next level. No, I can't do that and run my business, be a father, all that other shit, you know, you know, have a girlfriend, because that's extreme, right? But if you don't mind it being slow, then you could do the things, right? Like you just pick a few things that are non-negotiable, right? And if you don't mind it taking a long time, that's fine. You just won't excel in a short period of time. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you don't have to let your nutrition. I travel. You don't have to let your diet fall off when you travel. I take over 50 flights a year, man. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like it's all. But what you got to do is letting it go is a stretch. I don't let it go.
Yeah. Okay. Like you got. Let's be real. Like you can tell from my body that I'm not let it go.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is. There's some days where I'm over on carbs. There's some days I'm under on carbs. You know, I'm talking about. I'm saying
you can't hit elite levels.
I can't get to the same level as me 6 days a week in the boxing gym. I can't get to that level and do difficult. Podcasting and run a business that makes good money. You know what I'm saying? I can't do all of that and travel the world and be able to go on a date night twice a week. Because you can't do that because when you're in the boxing gym, you are in the boxing gym 6 days a week. You're sparring. You're on the road for 5-6 miles, probably like 4 or 5 times a week. You're hitting your macros. You're asleep by 8 o'clock at night. Do you know what I mean? There's rules to the game. There's rules to every game. What I'm saying is, and what I'm getting from you is, you have to pick what game you want to play.
You got to pick where do you want to excel, right? And you don't have to excel at everything, right? You know, for me, it's business. Like I had to put my priorities: business, my son, health. Everyone in my life knows that everything else is subordinate to those to those things, and health is like third. Like I ranked it in order. Right, the reason business is, and people might say yes, your business is above your son. Well, everything he needs to stay alive costs what? Money. You get what I'm saying? And the more money I have, the better quality of things I can give him. Right? There's a reason he didn't grow up in the hood like me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, like there's a reason he doesn't live in a neighborhood where they're robbing toddlers at the fucking break of dawn, right? Because of money. You know what I'm saying? Because of money, right? There's a reason he's in one of the fucking best private schools in his state, you know, getting a real head start. You know what I'm saying? Because of money. You know, and now everything, money makes all your decisions. Like, people don't do the best for their kids. They do the best they can afford. People don't do the best for their parents. They do the best they can afford.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
right?
that quote hits.
Yeah. Money makes all your decisions. Fuck that shit. It's just like oxygen, right? Oxygen is the most important thing in the world. People say money's not the most important thing. Of course not. It's oxygen, right? It's the only thing it's the only thing that if you didn't have it for, a few minutes, you would perish, right? But we have such an abundance of oxygen that we probably don't even think about it every day, right? We don't think about it at all. And it allows us to do other shit and put our minds elsewhere. However, if you were in a situation where your oxygen was being restricted, it's all you could think about. You wouldn't be able to think about shit else. You wouldn't be able to think about your family. You wouldn't be able to think about fucking love. You wouldn't be thinking about being happy. None of the other shit people say is the most important thing. All you care about is oxygen, right? Money's the exact same fucking way. And anyone who says anything different ain't never experienced lack of money. Yeah. They don't know what it's like to wake up and not know how you're going to eat that day. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They don't know what it's like to fucking, to have to heat the fucking crib up with the oven. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't know that shit. They don't know that. And thank God they don't. But they're speaking from a place of privilege, right? Money is just like oxygen. You have to have so much of it that you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Quick one for you guys. As you're aware, in 2017, I set up contentremoval.com with the main aim of protecting brands from negative online content. So if you're an entrepreneur, a personal brand, or a brand online that's affected by negative online content and you're looking to remove images, videos, search results, fake accounts, or anything else online, go to contentremoval.com. See, I understand exactly what you're saying, but I think there's something that stands just above money. And what I tell people is that your most important person in your life, over your missus, over your child, over everything else, is you. Yeah. Because if you're not happy and you're not optimum, you're not pursuing your best self and you're not fulfilled, everything else downwind of you fails. And downwind of you is including money. Right? Yeah. So I always, and it might sound bad, I always now put myself first. Mm-hmm. Because in order for me to turn up for this audience and be a good podcast, in order for me to turn up for you today, I have to put myself first so that then the money flows, then the podcast flow, then the conversation flows, then the value I put out to the world flows. Then if I have children, everyone eats. Yeah. So it all comes downwind of you, not even of the money. Because like before the money, it has to be you. It can't be the money. Because the money's you looking up at the money. You need to look down at the money. Do you know what I'm saying? You need to be above the money because money's energetic. Money is as infinite as the oxygen that you're talking about. The problem is that we're not taught that money's infinite. We're taught that money's scarce resource. Yeah. In your reality, when you were younger, money was shown as a scarce resource, but then all of a sudden, money was shown as an abundant resource. Yeah. Now, there wasn't anything that changed in your reality in terms of like, okay, your dad applied a few more skills and then the abundance of money showed up. But the abundance of money was always fucking there, just like the oxygen. But we're not taught the skills to unlock the abundance. We're taught this lack. And the way that we're taught lack, I believe, is because we put the money on the pedestal above us. No, we're above the money. The money comes to us. You know what I mean? Otherwise, if money's above your head, right? If you think about it, if money's above your head, you're looking up at the money, right? Money should be below your feet. You think about that. You think about that from a psychological level.
I get what you're saying.
You just walk on it. And I think you're right in what you're saying, but I just think that you're not seeing the final piece, that you've put yourself first, which has allowed you to unlock all the infinites of money.
I get what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean? Because when I see you putting food on the scale, you might think you're just doing that as a result of like you're doing it for the sake of doing it, but you're not. You're putting yourself first. You're putting your body, your mind first, and then that delivers downstream everything else. Yeah.
It's all. I would agree with that. It all starts with you. You're right. You and the way you would interpret the world, your perspective. Right. There's reality. There's reality, and then there's perspective. Right. Reality is not subjective, but the way you interpret reality is subjective, right?
Well, you think about your reality, right? You had a choice. When your dad committed suicide, you had a choice of how you pursue the realities. Exactly. You had a choice. That was your choice. You decided that your dad taught you lessons. You decided that your dad empowered you to be more. You decided all these things that empowered your growth. And then you went out and got more money. You got more of this. You know, you chose the frame you wanted to see the picture in. And it was a really powerful frame for you that set you on the right path to deliver everything for your children, right?
Yeah.
And I want the same frame for everyone when they turn. You're right. Money is like oxygen. Everyone should pick money, right?
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
But I just want people's frame to how they look at the money to change, because I think it's the frame, it's the lens that we look through life with that holds us back. When I was brought up in England, I was middle class, and in the middle class, it's actually, I think, a little bit worse in some respects. I've got some friends that have come from similar upbringings to you, but it's actually, when you're from an upbringing like you can look up and you can see all the possible opportunities. But when you're in the middle class, it's so comfortable, right? You can look up and see more opportunities, but you can look down and see a lot of people worse off than you. So you're caught in the middle ground. That's the worst place to be caught. Yeah, because you get all this programming to break,
and it's really difficult because they're in a situation where they don't love their life, but it's not painful enough for them to make change.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Where for me, it was like, it's either this or fuck this shit, you know? I mean, you know, like it's either, you know, it was so painful that I had to move, right? But if things are okay, right, you can get stuck there. It's like a purgatory, you know?
So I wanted to leave England when I was 18 years old. Yeah. I didn't leave England to go to Australia until I was 26 years old. Why? Because it was too comfortable. You know what I mean? I had the sports car on the driveway. I had the apartment. I had the mortgage, all the stuff. You know what I mean? I had the Italian girlfriend. Like it was good. It was objectively good. Yeah. But it wasn't what I wanted. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it was good enough to go, I'll just leave that another year. Yeah. I'll just leave that another 6 months. So that took me 8 years. 8 years of my life was lost to what I call average behavior. I don't want anyone that listens to this to lose any more life to average behavior.
Yeah. And that brings it back, right? Average behavior leads to average results, right? You got to be extreme to get extreme results, right? Seriously, you have to be an extremist. That's the only way you're going to get results that are above average. You know what I'm saying? It's all what you put in, what you get out. You put in regular shit, you're going to get regular results, you know? So when people see me do things or hear me talk about things, they say, man, that's too extreme, that's too much. Well, it depends on what your goals are. You know what I'm saying? It depends on what your goals are. If you want extreme success, it's not too much is what's required.
So, and that's another key insight you've just given there in plain sight. It depends on what your goals are.
Depends on what your goals are. Yeah.
Right? And the person that says to you it's too extreme is projecting onto you from their lens of their averageness, right? Yeah. And they forgot to ask you the critical question before they even gave advice. What is your goal? Yeah.
What's your goal? Right?
What's your goal?
But then they follow that with, and maybe this is true for them, right? You know, the way they follow it, money's not everything. Yeah, it's not everything, right? They say shit like that, right? And I don't know. I really want people to understand that it's important and take it seriously and start trying to downplay success. You know, money won't make you happy. They say shit like that. It's not money's job to make you happy. Money's only job is to be exchanged for goods and services, right? Your emotions are your responsibility, right? Not fucking money, you know?
Well, money amplifies the man and the woman. Money amplifies, right? So I'll give you an example. You've made a lot of money, right? You're a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars. Cool. But when you talk about how you're applying that money in your life, you're talking about, you know, paying for for cousins' children to go to school, you know, looking after family, this and the other. You've applied it within your lens, right? Well, money's amplified the man, and because you've got money in fair exchange for helping people with their business, and then you apply it to your family and you make everyone's life better, and it's just a nice karmic circle. People apply money in the wrong metric. So of course money can make you real miserable as well. If you apply it to some negative shit. You know, so it's I really like the way that you've framed your life to apply things and apply knowledge. You apply the knowledge to get the money to unlock the infinite wealth that there is in this world. And then once you've done that, you apply the money that you make to things that actually light you up as well. So you're in full congruency as a circle, you know?
I think that's the key. It's congruence. Like everything's got to be congruent. So balance will make you average, right? I'd rather you reach for congruency, right? So what I mean by that is, let's say you want to for me, health and in my business is there's a congruency there, right?
Yeah.
Or even, when I'm doing stuff with my son, right? Sometimes I'm thinking, all right, now's the time to get cardio, right? And then I'll take him to the trampoline park. But instead of sitting down like the fucking fat dads, right? I'm gonna jump around with him, right? And I'm thinking, this is cool. This gives me the opportunity to get my cardio today, right? I might have my Apple Watch. I might hit the fucking workout thing. And I'm like, all right, how many calories can I burn while I'm having fun with my son? You get what I'm saying? Or even like, while I'm, sometimes, man, I'll be with my girl and, she'll want to hang out. I'm like, all right, man, I know I ain't burning enough calories today. Now she gonna be the elliptical machine, man. Her vagina gonna be the motherfucking treadmill. It's congruency. You get what I'm saying? And because I'm burning more calories than I consume that day, I'm getting ripped, so I'm making more money while still spending time with my girlfriend, right? Like,
she's Latina, right?
Yeah. She is. Yeah, we already talked about this. I know how you do it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I know you like Spanish chicks. Mi gente mucho peligrosa.
I don't know if we're going to have to leave that bit in.
But it's like if you can find a way to integrate shit, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm talking about. Integration instead of balance. Integrate everything towards the main goal. You get what I'm saying? And that way you can be extreme, but just integrate everything into it.
I think there's got to be a direct correlation between bald guys like us and we're driven and high testosterone and we want to run through walls and
all the coolest guys are bald, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Me, you, The Rock, motherfucking Vin Diesel, Buddha, Young Jeezy.
We pulled out
Michael
Buddha.
Jordan, Tupac. I can stop right there, right?
Yeah.
Jada Pinkett Smith.
Yeah.
All the coolest guys are bald.
And to be fair, she is the guy in that relationship. To be honest,
man.
She wears the trousers.
Rules that relationship with an iron fist.
Soon as she shaved her head, she had Will Smith by the balls.
Yeah, she did. In the same sense.
I don't know where we go with this podcast. It's just got off.
Got off the rails. Let's get serious. It's the Frank Lee show. Stop fucking around. Let's go.
No, but you're right. You're right in what you're saying. Obviously, how you apply yourself in every area of your life is what takes you to the next level. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it really does. And obviously, the structure that you have allows you to accelerate in the areas that you want to accelerate in.
Yeah.
But ultimately, a lot of people haven't even sat down with themselves long enough to go, right, these are the key metrics in my life that I want to hit. Which parts of my life do I need to focus on to allow me to hit these key metrics?
Yeah.
And
it's as long there's four quadrants in my brain. I think about like there's four quadrants of life. There's obviously your health, right? Money. Then there's like friends and family, right? And like romantic relationships. And I separate those from friends and family, even though your wife is, because you can divorce a wife, you're probably gonna keep the same mom your whole life, right? So like most people are gonna have the same mom forever, right? But you can divorce a wife. It happens fucking all the time. You can fucking dump a girlfriend, but and if you're a guy, you probably keep most of the same friends. Girls switch friends all the time.
I just can't wait till she sees the clip from this podcast where you talk about turning her into a treadmill.
She knows what time it is. She probably get excited about that. Tell me I need to burn some calories tonight. Yeah, but it's four quadrants of life, right? If you can, what you want to do is, I forgot where I was going. For me, I'm focused on the money quadrant, right? But I want to make sure that all the other quadrants, I'm successful in the other quadrants as well, right? Successful in other quadrants as well. And the only way is to integrate them, man. I'm just like integrating. That's like turning the girl on the treadmill, right? Examples, right? But making, my girl helps me with stuff with the business, right? My son, he ain't contributed financially yet, right? But
how old is he?
He's only 7. I know you got stuff.
I know, he's still got time. By the time he's 8, he's gonna be cash flow positive, right?
I'm grooming him to. I'm grooming cash flow.
You can't say grooming on this podcast. You can't.
I mean it like that. I'm training him to contribute to the business in a positive way. You know what I'm saying? In some capacity, right? But even if he doesn't, it's whatever. That's my son, right? But you integrate everything, right? Maybe the family shit, it's not a lot of ways I can help, but the money helps keep the family shit in check, right? My mom, anything she needs, don't worry about it, Mom. Don't worry about the bill, right? The money is the only quadrant that will fucking take everything down if you let it. Like money's the only quadrant that if you improve it, you can improve all the other quadrants. And if it goes down, it can ruin all the other quadrants.
I was looking at how my business was laid out the other day, and I was looking at all these quote unquote problems, right? So I'm currently building a software company, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I'm doing clipping, I'm doing it, and all podcasts, and everything takes dollars off my table, right? Yeah. So I was like, this is becoming stressful because something like more and more dollars are coming off the table. And I'm like, we need to concentrate on this bit over here because this bit brings in a lot more money. Yeah. So, and then obviously I was like, right, cool. I'll make a few phone calls, and infinitely, the revenue of the business goes up because I've made these phone calls. Yeah. Because what did I do? I looked at the chessboard. I saw how it was laid out. I thought, right, resources are being placed all over here. They're all going to pay off. All these resources, everything's going to pay off. But what's the one key metric that keeps all this going? Okay, the abundance of money into the business. Let's flood the top end then. Cool. Let's make some phone calls. Let's do some revenue. Let's don't ever take your eye off the cash flowing activities.
Never.
That is the metric every day.
There's no problem that can't be either fixed or drastically improved with enough money, right? When people say health is the most important thing, I get why they say that. However, Magic Johnson would have died in the 90s with everyone else if he wasn't a multimillionaire. Everyone else who had HIV, right? There's studies that show that top 1% lives a decade longer than middle class. And middle class live significantly longer than the poor, right? You could think about it. You get the fucking we drinking expensive water, right? You get the best food,
out of
the
class
best,
too.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? The best food, the best health care, the supplements, whatever you need. I haven't been sick in 8 years, right? I don't get sick, but my girlfriend, she'll get sick from time to time, right?
Sick of you.
And there's only one cure for that. No, I'm just joking. Edit that. You can keep it in. I don't give a fuck. Anyway, we had the nurse come to us. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She's not into urgent care with fucking chicks with baby mamas and motherfuckers with STDs and shit. Right? The nurse comes to us. She wasn't. I'm feeling a little under weather. Or like she called a nurse to come give her an IV and a bunch of shit. Like that's the kind of shit you can afford when you got money. That's why I say money should be everyone's like main goal.
So give me your 3, 4, 5 step process to getting your money right.
Okay.
In your mind, go on.
Let's go. 3, 4, 5 steps.
However many steps you want to put in it.
Well, you can't make money. People have to give it to you, and they only give it to you in exchange for a product or service that they think is as valuable or more valuable than the currency that they're exchanging for, right? So you have to figure out a way to increase your value in some aspects, whether it's building a skill, right, or building a business. Well, the business is going to take skills, right? You have to really figure it out. And initially, when I was broke, the main thing I did, this is step 1, make more money than you spend and invest the difference. That's really the key to getting rich, right? Make more money than you spend and invest the difference. Over a long enough period of time, you will get rich. Right, I knew that. Like it's kind of like in the fitness industry, calories in, calories out. Right, right. If you make more money, you spend, and invest the difference over a long enough period of time, you will get rich, right? Some people make more money than they spend, and then the difference, they end up spending it, right? Or they increase their lifestyle at the same rate that they increase their income, right? I did not do that, right? I was working 80 hours a week for like 2 years, keeping my expenses as low as possible, right? And the whole time I'm making investments. Remember I told you I had to buy a computer, build it, right? I had to teach myself how to build, websites, I had to learn marketing. I'm joining every mastermind I can, or buying courses, paying mentors. I'm doing all the shit I can. That was like investing in the business. Then the business goes off the ground. Then I started investing in the business more and more and more and more. And then expanded that to investing in the stock market and investing in real estate. But always, that's the key, the cornerstone. Make more money than you spend and invest a difference. So if somebody's struggling right now or trying to get their shit together, I would just look at how much you're working. The average American, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, works about 38 hours a week, right? But all right, that's what the average American works. The average American also has less than $1,000 in their bank account, right? So you see the average American's input and the average American's results, right? If we want to be different, we got to do something different. If you're fine with getting what everyone else gets, then just do what everyone else is doing, right? I'm not making no judgment. But if you want something different, you got to do something different. 80-hour work week, man. I'm telling you, 80-hour work week. So and how you do that is you really have to get diligent with your time. So people ask, how did you do all that stuff when you were doing it? Well, this is my calendar.
Wow.
Like every hour of every day is accounted for.
That is.
It's choreographed. I'm not out here like fucking around guessing. I don't leave white space on my calendar. But I started this back in 2007.
So just open up a day for us.
Open up a day, yeah.
I want to see a day, and I just want you to walk us through a typical day. Because I think this is really helpful. Because what you're saying is, my time is valuable.
Yeah.
I value my time, and I need the world's only going to value me as much as I value myself. So I'm gonna make sure that my days are productive. Walk us through.
This was Monday, right?
Yep.
And boom, waking up. I woke up at 5. That's when it was scheduled. I had my wake up time. Wake up, boom.
So you schedule the wake up time.
Yeah, I schedule sleep time too. Sleep is in here too, right? And what I do is at 5 it says plan day, right? And then I have this habit tracker, and where I track everything in a Notion template, right? And so I do that the first half hour, then AM, boom, shower, shave, and then I do this walk. I walk outside.
So you program and time in the shave and everything.
Yeah, the whole shit, right? Boom. Then at 6, the game plan was to go. No, my fault. Yeah, 6, the game plan was to go live on IG and TikTok 6 a.m. right? And then 7 a.m. it says wake up, go to wake up, do a post and a workout. Then my first meeting is at 8 a.m. is with my sales team. Then I trade. The market open every day, so I need to be trading from like 9 to 10. And then there was some blank hours on this day. Right, there was blank hours on this day, but I know what I filled it in with it, right? But then the next thing on the schedule was 1 o'clock was accounting. Then I had more meetings on Tuesday. I'm sorry, I had more meetings at 2:30 with my content team. Another meeting at 5 with my some other team members. Then from 4 to 6:30, I was supposed to working on like content that I had to work on. Planning it. Then at 6:30, FaceTime my son. Right, we live in different states, right? But I fly out to be with him like every other weekend, sometimes more. Right? I'm gonna be out there a whole week later this month, right? Then there was another workout at 7 at 6. What is this? 6:45. And then there was a few. There was about 2 hours of blank spots there, right? And then 9 p.m., start getting ready for bed, shower, dinner, sleep by 10.
So you plan this every day before
a lot of this is recurring, right? So like it's a lot of these tasks are recurring tasks, But like a day like today, what you'll see is so it was a lot of that same stuff was today, except for some of the meetings, right? There was a block. Oh, so what happened was, okay, so if you look here, I didn't move it, but I knew in my brain, this was overlapping our podcast right here. Yep. But I know I did that before I came. I didn't put it in the calendar. I probably should have this morning, right? But it would look like that. So now that it's done, and then after this, we got our podcast. Then I'm gonna work on content. Boom. I have meditation. Boom. Then I have a workout here, and then I got to do another podcast. YouTube live at 7:30. Yeah, it's choreographed.
So basically, what you did was you wrote down everything that you needed to get in your life to win, and then once you knew what those were, you choreographed in those calendars. Yeah. So you're like, okay, cool. I need social media to make money. I need to post on YouTube to make money. So I'm gonna block posting on YouTube into my schedule. Yeah. So that I make sure that it's done. Yeah.
If it's not on the schedule, it's not. It's probably not going to be done, or it's not important if it's not on my calendar, right? So what's not on here, I do other shit that's maybe not on the calendar. It's just not important. Like, video games ain't on the calendar. You know what I'm saying? But it's not important.
You made a statement on that calendar where you said that you trade the market open, right? So I presume that at some point in your time, because obviously you started off with the key skill of fitness, then you learned business, then you applied business and fitness together and you made money, and then you're like, okay, cool, I need to learn how to invest this money, I want to start trading. So you've probably programmed it into your calendar to learn to trade, right?
Yeah. Right? I got into trading during the pandemic because I lived in Manhattan at the time on the Upper West Side, and New York closed during that time, and I got bored, so like I bought every trading course available, and then I hired some mentors to teach me. And I started trading.
And in your trajectory of learning how to trade, how long did it take you to become proficient at it so you were making money out of it?
Okay, so here's the thing. This is what you need to understand. I'm gonna answer your question, but I need to preface it with something. When most people set a goal, they do it like pussies, right? When they plan it, most of them don't plan it. Right. They don't plan it. They set a goal, but they don't plan it, right? But if they do plan it, they think, what do I have to do to accomplish this goal? What I do is I think, what would I have to do to make failure impossible? Most people think, what do I have to do to accomplish this goal? I think a better way to approach it is, what amount of action would I have to take that would make failure impossible? You get what I'm saying? Yeah. That's a way different way to go about it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, so it's a completely different mindset.
Yeah. I'm not like trying to see if I can do it. No, I'm gonna do it or die trying. You get what I'm saying? So I would say that could be like step 2. You get your money right. First, start making more money than you spend. Invest the difference, right? Number 2 is when you're setting your goals, set it when you plan it. Don't think, well, what do I have to do to accomplish this goal? Think, what amount of effort would I have to put in to make failure impossible? So what I did is like, okay, if I want to get good at this, what amount of effort do I need to put in to make failure impossible? So I read, I don't know, man, maybe 20 books on trading, maybe, and then I got, I went through everybody's course. Every asshole who's selling a course, I went through all of it. Every one of them, right? From some motherfucking kid making one to like fucking pros making one, all of them. I wanted anybody who might have had some, and to see where things started to converge, right? And then I hired like a few like mentors to like teach me, right? And my first year trading, I gravitated to trading futures, and I was trading with like my own money, right? Because I had a bunch of money, and I remember when I filed taxes, I made $20,000 that year. I'm the only person I know who's, I don't even like saying this shit because it's gonna sound like cap, but I'm the only person I've ever met who was profitable trading their first year. But you gotta understand the amount of effort I put into it, and I made sure I got 200 hours of paper trading, right? Practice before I started trading with real money. Like nobody's gonna do that. Nobody's gonna. I tracked it. I legit tracked it. 200 hours. That was the goal I set myself. 200 hours of paper trading. Because I think after 100 hours, you're pretty much decent at anything. You're not good, but he's like, okay.
And you mean trading on a demo account?
Yeah, I was paper trading on a demo account. So I looked at practice, and I would download, data from different days, like, in the historical data, and then go through it, and just I did hours and hours. It was during the pandemic, so I had time to do all that shit, And like the early days of the pandemic when New York shut down, but nobody's gonna do that, right? So before you say it's cap, just know that nobody will put that kind of effort in. You know what I'm saying? But I wanted to make it impossible to fail. But when I started trading with my own money, does that make sense?
Yeah.
But it was still with that, I only made $20,000, which some people that's a lot of money, right? But it wasn't a whole lot of money to me. But it was more about gaining the skill.
Yeah,
you feel me?
Yeah, and you've done that in all areas of your life by first things first. Like you said, you track it. You set an outcome. Yeah. You set a time limit that you're going to invest into it, and you track it.
Yeah, you got to track the data.
Because sometimes it's like, if I didn't look at the data sometimes with podcasting, I would never think I was moving. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
You got to look at the data.
Sometimes I very rarely look at downloads and all this stuff. It's only when like the head of brand or someone will say to me, how many downloads are we doing on Apple and Spotify? And I'll go and look and I'll see if we're still going north. You know what I mean? Which is good. And then I get out of the data and I'm like, I want to just be on the application mode for a while. And you can see from the outside looking in and feel whether you're going in the right direction. But if you're talking to the right people, having a conversation like this, helping people, helping the world, then in this game for me, I'm going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I think so.
But you have to, I said to myself when I started podcasting, I would not even worry about the analytics or worry about anything until I got to year 5.
Nice. That's smart.
So I said to myself, hey, I'm going to just take 5 years. I'm going to apply it to podcasting, apply it to the art of conversation, and I'm going to see how that changes my life and changes hundreds of thousands of other lives as well. I'm going to do that. And then at 5 years, I'm going to start to think to myself, okay, cool, this needs to monetize, this needs to do this, I need to scale this. So now I'm in the process of applying the things into this podcast that monetize it, that allow me to scale it more, that allow me to do all this stuff. After 5 years.
Smart.
Right?
That's super smart.
Most podcasters don't get past episode 21. They never will. And even if they did get past episode 21, and even if they got to episode 100, they're still looking at stuff. They've not applied it by saying to themselves, I'm just going to do the art. You did the art of trading. I did the art of podcasting. We applied the time. And we're getting results for it.
Yeah.
And that's what I want people to see is like, just apply yourself to the art of whatever the skill is.
That's something I tell people all the time is I look at the data, but rarely the results. So the results of whatever you're trying to accomplish, those are like lagging indicators. It only tells you what happens, right? When you see somebody with a championship or, that, what does that mean? That means that they spent a lot of time practicing, that means that they spent a lot of time accomplishing their goals, right? If you see somebody who loses a lot of weight, those are results. What does that mean? That means that they were in a caloric deficit. They were burning more calories than they consume. You get what I'm saying? So a lot of times when we look at the results we want, and it can be so far away from us, it can look daunting or it can look intimidating, right? But if we figure out what we have to do to accomplish those goals and track those metrics, right? How many, for example, in a fitness context, if somebody wanted to lose 10 pounds or whatever.
Just lose 1 pound.
Yeah, I wouldn't even focus on losing the pounds, right? Listen, bro, all we're gonna do is track how many calories you burn each day. Maybe get them a fitness tracker, like I use my Oura Ring. How many calories you burn each day? How many calories you consume in each day? Boom, let's track your calories and your macros. And if you're in every pound of fat you want to lose, you have to burn 3,500 calories, right? So if you are in a 500 calorie deficit, meaning you're burning 500 calories more than you consume each day, for a week, that'll equal 3,500 calories. You'll burn a pound of fat a week, right? So if we just look at the data, and he's in a 500 calorie deficit every day. We don't have to look at the goal. We know what's going to happen, and we just look at the metrics, right? The leading up to it. We don't have the leading indicators.
Right.
It's it'll be like tell the future, and that way he only has to make today a success instead of having to focus on the big goal of losing all that weight.
So the leading indicator will always tell you what's going to come down the track, so you don't have to worry about it. And the leading indicator to me was, can I apply myself to the podcast conversation and not just make conversations that people hear but people feel? Because if I can make them hear them and feel them, I'll create transformation.
Yeah.
Monetization and everything else and all the other crap downstream of that all comes after you've ticked the initial box of what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
Don't be the average Joe podcaster that just churns and burns, put pointless conversations. Have conversations that add value to people's lives, and downstream of that, everything else will work out. Now, I like to finish the podcast episodes with this question, Brandon, because I think it allows you to really get clear on the context of what is a 1% thing. But if there was just one golden piece of advice, one pearl of wisdom that you could put in this audience's ears right now that would move them forward 1% forward from today, what would that be to you?
Most people have way more potential than they're expressing. Like, even when I see like fat motherfuckers, fucking poor motherfuckers, everybody, there's so much potential. But the thing is, people aren't pushing themselves, right? Like I said earlier, you need to start thinking how much you can push yourself instead of trying to see how much you can get away with. Once you change that mindset and start seeing how much you can push yourself and getting better at pushing yourself, right? And learning how to push yourself more, expanding how hard you can go each day, you will unlock a level of potential that will look fucking crazy to everyone else, right? And if you can do that on a consistent basis, within 90 days, your whole life can change, right? Within a year, everything can change. But most people never push themselves for a fucking year straight. Yeah. Everybody's trying to see how much they can get away with, and they're not ready to get extreme. If you can just be extreme, just be an extremist, you will bring so much more of your potential to the surface. Everybody's gonna call you crazy, but that's okay.
Yeah. I love that, mate. And I just want to say thank you again for coming and dropping this knowledge on this podcast, brother. I've not only have I enjoyed it and had a laugh with you today, but I think there's a lot of valuable information in this, guys, because it's literally like systems, processes, and application, and understanding what you want to achieve, how you want to achieve it, and how you're going to apply yourself for a long enough time frame to make sure it's executed in your life, and then you can't essentially go wrong. And it's about taking your mindset off the bullshit metrics that other people tell you to track and applying them to the right metrics with what Brandon is saying. And if you apply all these right metrics and all these right avenues in your life, you can't help but scale your business, your life, your lifestyle, everything else in between, and be a better man and a better woman for your family as well. 100%. And I hope you've got absolute value from this podcast, as all the episodes. I love it. I'm driven to absolutely bring you source upon source, episode after episode, as I go around the world. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button on this podcast, wherever you're listening to or wherever you're watching it, and put it in someone else's ears. It helps more than you know. And as always, guys, that's Brandon Carter. Much love.